Good morning, everyone, and welcome. It's a joy to be with all of you today as we gather for a very important moment, the launch of the Cooperative for Humanity and the next chapter of what we call Peace in Motion. I would like to begin by expressing my heartfelt gratitude to our moderator, Lindsay Howard of Bloomberg, and to our distinguished panelists, Dr. Bruce Stillman, Liz Hume, Gordon Winston, and Mark Minovich. Each brings an essential perspective to this conversation, and together they remind us of something very important, that peace can no longer be understood as the work of one discipline alone. It must be built collaboratively across sectors, across institutions, and across the international community. For too long, governments alone have been expected to carry the burden of solving our greatest global challenges, even as so many are mired in gridlock. But the future will not be shaped by governments alone. It will also be shaped by the private sector, by civil society, by innovators, by educators, by scientists, and by those willing to bring greater synergy and coherence to a fragmented world. And this and that idea is part of what brings us here today. Several years ago, during our convening at the United Nations, we introduced a very bold proposition. Peace is not simply the absence of conflict, but something that must be intentionally constructed. We proposed that peace should be approached with the same seriousness, imagination, and ingenuity that we bring to science, technology, finance, and infrastructure. At that time, I spoke about the need to construct the DNA of peace, to identify the structural conditions necessary to build sustainable, active peace in the 21st century. And since then, through dialogue and research, partnership, and practice, that framework has become clearer. And what we have learned is this: peace lives in systems. It lives in health and well-being. It lives in education and culture. It lives in environment and energy, and it lives in innovation and infrastructure. These pillars are deeply interconnected, and together they form what we now call the DNA of peace. But if we're serious about constructing the DNA of peace, then we must also be very serious about deconstructing the DNA of violence, the habits, assumptions, and internal narratives that have normalized division, fear, paralysis, and conflict. Peace is not merely a theory. It must move from the theoretical to the operational. It must become radically practical. That means developing a new kind of collaboration, one with the strength to move things, to galvanize multilateral efforts, and to serve as a kind of global laboratory for what peace can look like in practice. It means building not just vision, but implementation, not just aspiration, but traction. Innovation, after all, needs a landing platform, and we can no longer tolerate this paralysis of peace. If peace is built through systems, then we must also build a community that reflects those systems, a community where leaders from many sectors can come together around a shared purpose and learn to engineer peace like war, strategically, intentionally, and at scale. In many ways, I think of us as a grand central station, a meeting place where many lines converge and where connection creates momentum. And that is what we hope the Cooperative for Humanity will be, a place where leaders from peace building and science, business, technology, education, energy, finance, and diplomacy, and certainly culture come together, not to leave behind their own work, but to strengthen it through shared vision and common purpose. And perhaps that is why this moment asks something more of us. Real transformation is rarely born in comfort. It is forged in a crucible, under pressure, under risk, under conditions that test what is essential and call forth courage, trust, and imagination. In that sense, Artemis II offers a powerful reminder. Human beings rode this incredible fire that they experienced. And that was really, really something that we realized when we heard the astronauts speak about the familiar boundaries in a spacecraft called integrity, and reminded us that the future belongs to those willing to venture beyond what has already been accepted as possible. Peace, too, will not be born of passivity. It must be forged with boldness, with vision, and with the willingness to build something worthy of humanity's future. This moment does not call for small thinking. We have to reshape the neurological structure, not by incrementalism, but by boldness, inventiveness, and the willingness to take meaningful risks in service of humanity's future. We are living in a time when the speed of technology is accelerating faster than the moral, psychological, and ethical frameworks needed to guide it. So one of the great questions before us is this: how do we connect the speed of technology with the unlimited potential of the human mind, while also meeting the existential challenges that come with it? How do we optimize our destiny rather than just drift into it? How do we engineer peace with the same discipline, commitment, and strategic seriousness with which the world has so often engineered conflict? So again, we must ask the big question: what would it look like to design peace into the systems that shape our world? What would it look like to build peace into how we educate, innovate, invest, govern, and care for human well-being? What would it look like to increase peace literacy on a scale never seen before, to create not only informed minds, but transformed imaginations, to reshape our internal narrative, to deepen our moral sensibility, and generate the kind of emotional contagion that makes peace feel not distant or passive, but urgent, practical, and possible? Let us use hope as a bridge. Perhaps what is needed now is nothing less than a new global ethic, a new worldview, a new nucleus of shared responsibility, a kind of new software for the planet. The Cooperative for Humanity is our response to that need. It is a platform for collaboration, a structure for participation, and an invitation to leaders across sectors to help construct the DNA of peace in practical and enduring ways. Over the next 18 months, we will continue this work through conversations, convenings, publications, and collaborative initiatives. Today is the beginning of something public and shared. Today, we put peace into motion. Thank you, all of you, for being here, for lending your voice, your ideas, your presence to this growing global movement. And now, it is my very great pleasure to turn the program over to our wonderful moderator, Lindsay Howard of Bloomberg. My dear audience, as we come to the close of our time together today, I want to pause and reflect on what this gathering represents. What we have shared today is more than a conversation. It's much more than the launch of a new initiative. It is the public beginning of a shared undertaking, the launch of the Cooperative for Humanity. I must tell you that I have goosebumps because the conversation has been so meaningful and inspiring and frightening. This moment is deeply meaningful to me because it represents the continued unfolding of a vision that we first introduced several years ago, that peace must be understood not only as an aspiration, but as something that can be intentionally constructed. Since that time, through dialogue and partnership research practice, that vision has become more defined. We've come to understand more clearly that peace endures when the systems shaping human life are aligned with dignity, well-being, opportunity, responsibility, and big imagination. That understanding brought us to the framework that we have discussed today, the DNA of peace. It's shaped by the health of our institutions, by the quality of our education and culture, by the resilience of our energy and environmental systems, and by the technologies and infrastructures we are building at extraordinary speed. These are not isolated pillars. They are interconnected conditions that make peace possible. Together, they form an integrated architecture through which peace can move from idea to practice. That's why the Cooperative for Humanity matters. It's our way of widening the circle of peace leadership. Synergy, existential challenges, and emotional contagion, the nucleus of a global ethic, the fountainhead of a new worldview. I keep returning to the image of Grand Central Station, a place where many paths converge, where movement is activated, where individual routes become part of something larger. That's how I see this cooperative, not as a single voice replacing others, but as a place where many voices, many disciplines, and many forms of leadership come together and gain strength through connection. We have to galvanize multilateral efforts, and that requires us to think beyond incremental momentum. We can't build the future with yesterday's assumptions. We are presenting today an invitation to those who are ready to help build the infrastructure of peace with seriousness, imagination, and shared purpose. We are developing here a global brainstorm, a fountainhead of a new worldview, and we must be obsessed with efficiency, powerful muscle, agility, and an irresistible force of determination. So today, with much gratitude and conviction, I invite you to join us in this Cooperative for Humanity, to join us in helping to build the living architecture of peace, to join us in advancing a vision of peace that's not passive, but designed, not distant, but practical, and not fragmented, but shared. This is the work before us, and this is the chapter we now begin together. How formidable is this challenge? How absolutely riveting is this challenge? And as the astronaut, the young lady Koch said, a beautiful blue planet, a gem in the darkness. We have a shared humanity, a shared destiny. So I thank you for your partnership. I thank you for your leadership. Thank you for your belief in what is possible. Thank you, Dr. Stillman. Thank you, Liz Hume. Thank you, Gordon Winston. Thank you, Mark Minovich. And an enormous thank you to our magnificent Lindsay Howard. I really pray to God that we can fulfill this obligation, and I know that we can. We can, if we can go where we just came from, farther than ever, and with all the crucible, with the fire and they circled the earth, they went over almost 1 million miles. They came back in 10 days and then had a press conference. Nuts. We can do this. I want to thank my team, Cooper and Jordan. I love you. And I want to thank each of you. I love all of you. We are together in this great, great journey. I pray to God that we can fulfill this. Blessings. All of you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. My dear